The kindergarten is a location that debuted in the first season of Steven Universe, more specifically in the episode On the Run. Since then, it seemed terrifying to us, not just because of how lonely and dark it looked, but also because it would cause the extinction of all life on Earth. But something very few people know is how the idea for this frightful place originated. It's actually inspired by a terrifying story. That's why in this video we will talk about the horror manga that inspired the kindergarten, The Enigma of the Amigara Fault, from the famous horror mangaka Junji Ito. Enjoy! Ya llegamos.
Y esto es
Al Preli.
Junji Ito is a mangaka famous for stories like Tomie, Uzumaki, and Gyo. And in case it wasn't obvious enough, we are huge fans of his work. By May 30, 2002, the last volume of Gyo was published, the story that would inspire Steven Universe a decade later.
The Enigma of Amigara Fault begins with the damage caused by a big earthquake, with many cities and villages destroyed, and near the epicenter, at Mount Amigara, a fault spanning miles was formed. This was such a spectacular event, it was shown on TV news, which prompted people to come and visit the place.
And that's how we meet Owaki, the protagonist of this story, who on his way to the mountain meets Yoshida, and since they are both headed to the same place, they decide to go together. As they walk their way to the fault, they discuss the mystery of its sudden appearance, but they are interrupted when Owaki hears somebody murmuring.
They both walk faster to find out where the noise is coming from, only to discover that it is a group of people gathered at the fault. The strangest part? The walls in the fault are full of humanoid-shaped holes. Owaki mentions this is exactly what it looked like on TV, but seeing it live is somehow more powerful. According to the news, these holes got exposed because of the earthquake. So before that happened, they were buried underground, making everybody wonder how did they form?
A group of college researchers are examining one of the holes with the help of cameras in cables to try to find out what's inside of them. However, not even the 30-meter cable is able to reach the end of the hole.
According to the researchers' first conclusions, these holes didn't form naturally, but they also don't seem to have been made by men. So, how were they made, and what is their purpose? While the researchers are thinking about this, we'll return to our protagonist, as we see Yoshida walking into the mountain, slightly in a rush.
Owaki follows her and asks her where she's going. Yoshida apologizes and tells him that she's looking for something. This confuses Owaki, so he asks what is she looking for, and Yoshida tells him that she's looking for a specific hole she saw on TV. Despite only seeing part of it, she felt like it was calling her, and that's why she decided to go to the mountain and see it in person. Owaki asks Yoshida what's so special about that hole, and she answers that the hole was shaped like her.
Owaki becomes even more confused after hearing this, so Yoshida continues her explanation. She tells him that the hole was identical to her and how its silhouette was practically based on her. Owaki tells her that she's not making any sense, as those holes are thousands of years old, and how it's a bit egotistical to think one of them is shaped just like her. Yoshida gets angry at Owaki's accusations and tells him to stop mocking her. She knows she's telling the truth and it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense.
Suddenly, they are interrupted by a guy called Nakagaki. He introduces himself into the conversation, saying that he felt just like Yoshida when he saw his hole on TV, and he explains how many others in the mountain came for the same reason. Not only that, he also says he already found his hole.
Nakagaki takes our protagonist to his hole to show them how it is exactly shaped just like him. He notices how Owaki still seems skeptical about it, so Nakagaki resolves to show him he's right. He strips to only his underwear, enters the hole, and he starts sliding slowly into it. The other guys worry about him when they see this, and Owaki screams at him to come back, but Nakagaki goes deeper and deeper into the hole instead.
Desperately, Owaki asks for help by explaining what just happened, and the researchers use the cable to try and reach Nakagaki, but he has advanced so far they are unable to find him. Everyone panics and an emergency rescue team is called in.
Afterwards, according to a reporter, Nakagaki has been in his hole for 3 hours already, and there is still no sign of him. At this point, the rescue team decided to send one of them into the hole to get Nakagaki out, but he was unable to advance more than 5 meters. Owaki mentions how incredible it is that Nakagaki got into his hole like that. while Yoshida just sweats nervously.
At night, the team still hasn't been able to track Nakagaki, so Owaki decides to set up a tent and rest for the night. That night, Owaki had a terrible nightmare. In it, he was Nakagaki, trapped inside the dark walls of the hall as they kept going for hundreds of meters. Nakagaki had an expression full of desperation as he couldn't move, and in front of him, all he could see was endless darkness. The only thing he could do was scream for help with no response.
As this happens, Owaki wakes up abruptly relieved that it was just a nightmare. But that makes him wonder if Nakagaki has already been rescued, so he decides to head out and investigate. As he leaves his tent, he sees Yoshida, who is just standing up straight, looking uncomfortable. Owaki asks her about Nakagaki, and Yoshida explains that they still haven't been able to find him.
Later, Yoshida asks Owaki to follow her. He asks her what's going on, and she tells him that she has found her hole. On their way there, she says her hole is at the bottom of the mountain, and that's why she couldn't find it the day before. As they arrive, Owaki tells her that the hole does look a bit like her, and Yoshida responds by saying it's identical to her, sounding nervous.
Suddenly, Yoshida starts sweating and trembling, getting scared. Owaki asks her what's happening, and she says that she is scared. She is very scared. That is her tunnel. It was made for her. Owaki tries to calm her down, telling her it's just a coincidence. It just looks a little like her. But Yoshida insists that it's her tunnel and how it was made for her to enter it. It has been waiting for her since it came out of the soil, and how once she enters it, she will never be able to come back.
Back to the reporter, he mentions how it's been a full day since Nakagaki disappeared into his hole. The rescue team advises people against getting into them because it could be very dangerous. In the crowd, somebody notices how there's another person, half naked, trying to reach his own hole. Everybody screams at him to get down, but the guy looks back at them and tells them how that hole was made for him.
He throws his glasses away as he insists he has to enter his hole, and he asks to tell her mother that he loves her, just to slide slowly into the hole like Nakagaki. On the other side, somebody screams for help as another person also tries to get into a hole, and suddenly even more people are doing it.
This situation makes Yoshida panic. She screams in fear as she says how she also has to get into her hole and that she will die inside. Owaki tries to calm her down and tells her everything will be alright, but Yoshida says it's useless. The hole is watching her and it keeps telling her to step inside. Yoshida screams for help again, so Owaki tells her he will fix the problem. He takes rocks from the floor and puts them on the hole until it's completely covered, and this calms Yoshida a little.
At night, they are both resting inside the tent. Owaki asks her if she wants to return to her tent, but she says that she's too scared to be alone. She opens up to Owaki, telling him how she has always been alone, her parents ignore her, and how she never had friends. Owaki tells her that's the reason why she's so scared of the hole, as there's nothing more lonely than being inside it. And now that they are together, she doesn't have to worry anymore, and slowly their faces begin to get closer.
That night, Owaki had another dream. This was in an era far away from ours. Owaki had committed a terrible crime, and he was about to be punished for it. It was a death sentence. He was taken to a cliff with hundreds of shapes of other criminals carved into the walls. When somebody committed a crime as big as Owaki's, the people from the past carved humanly shaped holes, and he was about to enter one of them.
Once inside, the rock on the walls felt cold all around his body, but he had no choice but to keep going forward. Because the hole was dug to make it impossible to go backwards, with every move Owaki made, he was slowly moving forward. As time passed, he felt his neck stretching, and the more he advanced, the more stretched and thin it felt to the point of breaking. This wasn't only happening to his neck, but also to his arms and legs. His body felt more crushed as he kept going forward, and the only thing Owaki could do was scream for help.
Owaki wakes up disturbed about his nightmare, and after looking around, he realizes Yoshida isn't with him anymore. He takes a lantern and starts looking for her, hoping she hadn't gone too far. As he reaches her hole, he finds the horrible truth. Yoshida removed all of the rocks he had put on the hole, and she slipped into it. Owaki screams at her, desperately telling her to come back, but there is no response. It was too late. And now, the only thing he can do is weep at Yoshida's hole.
As he sits down, Owaki accidentally drops his lamp, and it illuminates a hole. As Owaki looks at what happened, he gets horrified. He slowly walks towards it and, stuttering, he says that it is his hole. He stares in silence and he undresses to slide into it.
Months later, we see the researchers as they have reached the other side of the mountain because an excursionist told them there was another fault on the other side. One of them speculates how that fault could have also been formed by the earthquake, but this one is smaller. Suddenly, surprised, the researchers tells everyone to look at the walls.
They find out it also has holes, but this time they aren't humanly shaped. In fact, they don't seem to have a defined shape, they are all irregular. One of them wonders if they are related to the holes from the other side, so they decide to take a peek. And what he finds out leaves him amazed. Deeply scared, he tells everyone to see what's inside.
According to him, there's something slowly trying to come out, and we see a highly deformed human body with white out-of-place eyes, a wide open mouth, and its arms and legs are extremely stretched and thin. One can hardly tell that's a human body. Judging by the color of its skin, it's very possible that it's a decomposing corpse, and it's most likely Nakagaki, the first man to slide into these holes from hell.
And that's how the horrifying story of the Enigma of Amigara Fault ends. Let us know what you think about it on the comments below. And if you like this video, we invite you to like, subscribe and share it with your friends, because there's a lot more of Junji Ito stories we'd love to tell you about. We love you all, bye!